2011. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll, please.
Mayor Burchell?
Here.
District 1 Morset?
Here.
District 2 Yakub? Here. District 3 Bernard? Here. District 4 Wyland?
Here.
District 5 O'Malley?
Here.
District 6 Vanslow?
Here. At this point in our agenda, we take comments and suggestions from citizens present about any issue that's not on our agenda tonight. So is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the Common Council? One more time, anybody interested in addressing the Common Council? If not, let's move on to our next agenda item, which is our consent agenda. Madam Clerk.
To approve the public hearing and regular meeting minutes of January 24th, 2011, the special meeting minutes of January 31st, 2011, and the Committee of the Whole minutes, special meeting and closed session minutes of January 25th, 2011. To schedule a public hearing for March 7th, 2011 at 6:55 p.m. to consider amending Chapter 255-14 of the Zoning Code regarding uses allowed in Office District. To approve claims for payment in the amount of $527,457.64. A detailed description is available in the clerk's office on request and is available on the city's website. To approve the use of Burton Park for Hudson Adult Kickball League on Sunday evenings, May through July. To approve the amended agreement and renewal of the concession lease with Bruce Chesson, Chicago Dogs, for the sale of concessions at Lakefront Park in 2011. To place on file the quarterly report of the city clerk and the January 25th, 2011 meeting minutes of the Community Access Board, and that is all.
Move for approval.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Morset?
Yes.
O'Malley?
Yes.
Wyland?
Yes.
Vanslow?
Yes.
Bernard?
Yes.
Yakub?
Yes.
Okay. Motion carries. Moving on. Reports of standing committees. First item is the amendment of subdivision code 254-3C. Final plat to extend final plats are required to be submitted to the Planning Commission from a preliminary plat approval from 24 to 36 months. Ordinance 3-11. Mr. Darnold.
My department report suggested this is really a housekeeping item. However, Catherine reminded me, even though it's a housekeeping item, it's something that's required by state code, and we need to amend the subdivision ordinance to provide conformance with the state code. It does require a public hearing, so I'm just requesting tonight that we set up the public hearing for March 7th at 6:50, and we'll do the public hearing notice in conjunction with the zoning code, and we'll take care of it at that time, make sure our procedural considerations are taken care of.
Okay. Any comments?
I have a question for Catherine. Since this is a request simply to set a hearing date, do we have to notice that this is our first reading or anything like that?
No, I mean, you could suspend the rules and adopt it at that time. You could do a first reading and have the public hearing.
That's what I'm asking. If
Yes.
Well, from a procedural standpoint, if you have first reading, you may be biasing yourself before the public hearing. I would suggest you not do that.
okay, then I'll move to set the hearing date for March 7th at 6:50 p.m.
Is there a second? Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item 3, final development plans for Mississippi Flats, 22-unit multifamily residential development east of O'Keefe Road and south of Mississippi Avenue. Mr. Darnold.
The Plan Commission recommendation is to approve the final development plans for the 22-unit Mississippi Flats residential development located east of O'Keefe Road and south of Mississippi Avenue as proposed by Mississippi Flats Limited Partnership, with the conditions the plans are amended or recommendations implemented per the city engineer's memo of February 1st, 2011, and the fire inspector's memo of January 12th, 2011. An agreement regarding use of storm drainage easement and a water utility easement be executed prior to the issuance of the building permit. Again, the two easement agreements are being worked on, and would still be subject to final review and approval by the city attorney. Mr. Vern Hansen is here tonight from Metro Plains, representing the developer, and also this project engineer. Brent Rochelle is here to answer any questions. Again, this is a 22-unit multiple family housing project made up of 2 12-unit buildings and 2 5-unit buildings. It does provide affordable housing for families. It's located, again, north of this holding pond at the intersection of Hanley and O'Keefe Road. There will be sidewalks on the private property, and this is a rural section of roadway. At some point in time, the city could modify that roadway to be urban standards, which means it's basically curb and gutter considerations. So the sidewalks wouldn't have to be disturbed at that time if we did. There's more right-of-way in this area than typical. This is 120-foot in some area right-of-way where typically, because it was County Trunk F at one time, typically this roadway would be 66 to 80 feet. So we got plenty of room to do any kind of modernization of the road in the future. The plan does accommodate for a community building for the residents. They do provide 3 off-street parking places, 1 garage, 1 next to the garage, and 1 on the east side of the driveway. I think it's a very good plan, nice architectural features. Recommend approval.
Comments or questions?
I'll move for approval.
Is there a second? All right, now, any,
Could we just simply note on the motion that with the conditions that Denny has outlined?
Absolutely.
is that okay with the second? Any other discussion, questions for the developer or anything like that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have application for operator's license. I think that Mr. Morset had pulled that.
And I recuse myself.
Okay, and I don't have my copy. Do you have one, Andy? Does anybody have one, Andy? We have 3 people that have been recommended for approval for regular operator's license. Melissa Clark, Kimberly Heil, and Cassandra Steinberg. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We have an application of Nicholas Newbar for taxi cab driver's license. Finance Committee recommended denial of the license based on the information from and recommendation from the Chief of Police. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? Is Mr. Newbar here tonight? Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor of denying the license?
Aye.
Opposed? Application for license is denied. I have in your packet tonight, I provided you, we spent quite a bit of time at Public Works, or at Finance, discussing our capital projects. I just wanted you to take a look at it. We're trying to get this done as quickly as possible. Hopefully by next meeting, we'll have a recommendation for the entire council. If you want to talk about it at all, now's your chance. We'll make recommendation. Again, for the background for everyone, new people and Rich, in our plan, we have gone $1 million a year for the last 3 years for capital budgeting. We did not bond last year because we didn't have enough money, or we didn't spend enough money, or didn't have enough money to bond. So we decided to make it all into 1 year. So we have $2 million plus, Devin, 140 extra that we borrowed.
$140,000 to $150,000 will be to pay back. Step back. We borrowed $421,000 last year on short-term financing. There was a $250,000 allocation for debt retirement in the 2010 budget, and there's some other monies that came in. It's about $140,000 that we'll have to include in this borrowing to pay off that short-term note. So that plus whatever else you want to include for 2011 and 2012, but we have to add that in there.
We've kept our borrowing at $1 million a year so that we can keep our mill rate pretty constant, unless this group wants to change that. But we've been pretty steady with that $1 million a year in capital, and It's a tough, as you can see, there's 1.5 million requests, and we have 1 million, so we need to work on that, and next year's budget is about the same. And I don't think all the requests are in yet for 2012.
Is there a 5 or 10 year plan for infrastructure repair replacement for the city? And if there isn't, how do we know if we're not falling further and further behind, and eventually we'll have one huge lump sum of money that we're going to have to come up with to repair infrastructure?
We have a big project that we're looking at, the Vine Street project, that we talked a little bit about tonight. The answer is no, I don't think we have a 5-year plan per se that we have to replace this.
Yeah.
That'd be a good one for Public Works to start on, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I certainly would be concerned about where, I mean, if you don't have a plan and you don't know what your infrastructure is and what your costs are going to be, you don't know financially where you are at as a city, and that kind of concerns me somewhat.
Yes, sir,
If I may add a
Yes.
little bit to your answer. In Public Works, we know that much of the infrastructure has an average lifetime of 17 years, particularly our roadways, because they're asphalt. Concrete lasts a lot longer, but it costs much more to put down. And so what we found about 3 years ago was that, 4 years ago now, that we were falling a little bit behind. And so we doubled the allocation for mill and overlay on our streets, and to get us caught up. Our rationale is that at the very least, we're going to have to do 1/17 of everything every year. Otherwise, 17 years will go by and things will crumble, and we will not have taken care of them. We have 70 now, 70 miles of roadway inside the city limits to take care of. So we are on track, but just barely so. You know, anybody wanting to donate to Public Works, I'll give them our phone number here at City Hall.
The other thing that I brought up at Finance, I'll just mention it again here, is we've had a lot of flooding in the old town, downtown.
Yep.
We've been looking at a Vine Street reconstruction project, so one of the things I'd like us to continue on is to continue with that evaluation and the build the plan and set a date for execution as far as how we're going to solve that flooding. Because this spring, it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be worse than it's been in a number of years, so I know we're gonna get lots of phone calls saying, okay, you've been thinking about it, what are you doing?
Okay. Any other questions or comments? I don't need any motion or anything, I'm just for your information that was provided tonight. Draft of the finance officer at our finance meeting today. Earlier, we decided to approve this, approve the timeline, and we've discussed that we would utilize our finance committee for a recommendation to city council for this position. Any comments? Just, this is an update. I guess.
Maybe just
we do
from my
need-
background, what, was this position filled before? Or
Yes.
Are we adding this?
We had a
And
finance officer
why
here
did we
was-
end up not filling it, or how long has it been vacant?
June?
Betty Caruso left at the end of June. At that time, the council partially money savings, and so we get an idea of who is doing what. The accountant and I have been
Doing both, John.
doing both jobs. We've been picking up the duties, and at the last meeting, it was discussed that it wasn't an issue of capability, it was just a time issue that, and the committee agreed that we needed to fill the position, so. But there's been a finance officer here probably since the mid-90s, I would say. Just make sure everybody got the email concerning the additional job duty that was put in here, okay. So the only thing really that needs to be done is the approval of the position description.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any other discussion on it?
Just like to make the point that in case Rich is new and maybe some other people don't know that during this time, we've been well covered. Devin is himself a CPA.
Okay.
So it's not like he's new to the biz.
Okay.
And we'll get the advertisement going right away. Reference to the salary, just to mention, the finance committee said to, just kind of depending on qualifications and wait and see what we get in as far as candidates and then make a determination at that time.
But you were going to check with the league, too, to see.
Correct, right, so that when we get to that point, we know what standard and.
We had budgeted 70.
Correct.
70,000 for that position, so.
Has this ever been looked at outsourcing?
You're required to have a city treasurer.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess we can't look at outsourcing.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, thank you.
Give it to Nancy.
New business.
Used to be, but
We have a request, rescind our moratorium on the construction or installation of electronic message display signs effective 3/1/11. Dennis?
Kathy and I talked about this afternoon. Kathy's recommendation and council is that rescinding this will require an ordinance similar to actually creating the moratorium in itself. So what we'd like to do is Kathy and I will bring back a ordinance for the next council meeting and take care of it procedurally that way. So we ask it to be postponed for tonight.
Okay. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is consider support for the St. Croix River Crossing project, the bridge in Stillwater. This resolution was at a town hall meeting or a listening session with Representative Kind last week, and then he met with a group of us. There's a coalition of Stillwater, St. Croix County, City of Stillwater, group of people that are recommending that we support and have requested us to support the passing or that this bridge be completed. Last fall, the Park Service opposed the bridge, and the only way possible for this bridge to be built is for the Congress to authorize it. It cannot be done by the DOTs of each state. Representative Kind is in support of this and is working well, or trying to work with our entire delegation from Wisconsin and Minnesota, try and get this on the agenda. It's I guess I bring this to you to, I think it's important that we get that bridge for our own downtown and the traffic flow that happens when they have the bridge will be closed this spring, and I think everybody knows what happens when that's closed or closed for repairs. I'd like comments about that.
I'll move for approval, but I'd like to make a change to it.
Okay?
Move to suspend the rules.
Right.
Yep.
You have to suspend the rules.
Okay. Move to suspend the rules. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Morset?
Yes.
O'Malley?
Yes.
Wyland?
Yes.
Vanslo?
Yes.
Bernard?
yes.
Yakub?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll move for approval, but I'd like to
Is there a
make,
second for that? Okay.
oh, okay. I'd like to suggest a modification to it.
Yes.
A slight modification, which is, and therefore be resolved, the whole thing here, and then it's, what do I want to say, from the Wild Scenic Riverway Act, also construction of the proposed may begin while the historic bridge is allowed to remain in place. Because that's been the whole argument, that while one goes, one has to stay, and I think that the historic bridge should remain in place. There isn't an argument that it needs to be removed.
You want two bridges then instead of one?
The historic,
Am I hearing you right?
the historic bridge stays in place, yeah.
Don't we want to
And then also
remain
continue to serve downtown, which is, rather than routing traffic around it.
Don't we
take-
want to remain consistent with our partners in this resolution?
That's up to you folks.
I think it would look better.
Has anybody here ever seen the underside of the cast iron bridge at Stillwater?
Yep.
Yes.
Would you care to put a heavy vehicle on that a few years from now?
No, that's not the question. The question is, we're talking about approving the building of an additional bridge, which will take the majority of the traffic across the river and open up spaces on the Wisconsin side, which is what people want.
Has that not been the argument all along, is that they want only one?
The argument for the scenic riverway is, if you put one bridge in, you gotta tear the other one out. The historic preservation is saying, why tear the other one out or turn it into a pier or do something silly like that? It's like, well, you got a historic bridge, there's a value in it. We want to support the building of a new bridge to open up and move traffic and solve our problem. But my recommendation is, why tear apart what is working? Put your additional bridge in and leave the current one alone, because it services downtown.
Well, I'm not in agreement, so can I rescind my second? I just don't want to add anything to this that's going to tie hands further.
Okay.
So the motion fails for lack of a second.
The motion
Well, the
that,
motion was to adopt the resolution.
But with that change.
With the-
No,
No.
he brought that up in discussion, I
Okay.
think.
Yep.
I brought it up before the motion. I said I will approve, I make this motion with this addition.
Okay. Then you're pulling your second from it. Okay? So it dies for, unless there's a second for Lee's addition.
May I make one short comment?
Certainly.
Pardon me, Lee, for being smart alecky earlier about the condition of that bridge. That is not the question. However, I believe if we were to ask for that bridge remain, our resolution tonight would have zero effect and maybe a negative effect.
Really? We're supporting a new bridge going through.
But we would not be in concert with the other municipalities
But this
around us.
does not say the other one has to be removed. I was just clarifying the statement that it doesn't need to be. It doesn't say here they're gonna tear down the old one either.
I'll move to approve resolution number 2-11 the way it is written.
Second.
Okay. Now, is there any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I guess that moves on to communications from the mayor. I want to congratulate the Hot Air Affair. Seemed like it was a real successful event. Lots of people downtown. I think we had about 5 or 6 balloons go up Saturday. I don't know, was anybody?
Sunday.
On Sunday?
Yeah.
So congratulations to those folks. They worked real hard. Again, remind everyone that next Tuesday, the February 15th, we have a primary election. Make sure everybody gets out to vote. One other suggestion that I'd have, that I would really like maybe some of our committees that, for instance, the library committee, maybe have a quarterly report, EMT, fire commission, that we do a verbal, in addition to the written report that we get.
Sure.
That we get updates from each of those committees that aren't a city committee, that we have joint. So I'll try and put that out in a memo form and try and get those updates. I think you've got fire and EMS.
I have EMS.
You have EMS.
So I have
You
fire.
have fire and you have library.
So you're saying have a
tourism.
representative from there show up to present?
Or you can. Why don't you?
We're the representative.
You're the
I
representative.
thought you meant to have the chief come and represent.
No, I'd rather have our representative just tell us what's going on. I know we get reports, but it's kind of nice for everybody to hear what's going on. I don't know.
Tourism too and park.
Sure. Maybe we do it every quarter. Doesn't have to be every
We're
month.
doing a rotating schedule like we do with the department heads.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's all I had. Anybody else? Any council person?
I have-
Lori?
I can't resist. I would like to congratulate my hometown Green Bay Packers in their World Championship victory.
All right.
A victory for the entire state, and they made us proud.
Any other altar person?
I would like to have whoever is going to be in charge of the flooding give us an update on the preemptive plan that we're probably going to anticipate quite a bit of flooding downtown.
Okay.
I don't know who you want us. Tom?
We have a civil defense.
Denny, maybe?
Denny?
The plan is same year after year. I mean, the staff is well ahead of it. We've already started reviewing forecasts. Of course, weather is what affects the flooding. Last year, the mayor was in Hawaii, sent back a memo, please get on top of flooding. Our report was we're 2 days ahead of it. We're already ahead of it. Okay, so staff does it every year.
Yep.
So we're well aware of what has to happen, shutting down manholes, getting hold of neighborhoods, talking. This may be a historic year depending on the type of melt that we get. But staff is very experienced in this issue. So please, if you can put our trust in us, we'll take care of it.
Danny, I have a question. Who's the lead person on that? Is it you?
Well, I have kind of been the quasi. However, I have had more conversations with Eric about him taking lead from emergency management consideration.
I think that may not be a bad issue to bring up.
We'll sit down and talk
Okay.
about that next week or so.
Thank you, Randy. Anything else? Any other altar person?
We'd like to suggest along the lines of what Randy is discussing that we might add a link to the city website because both NOAA and the DNR publish not only what the current weather river height is, but what it's projected to go to over a 2-week period. And this might be helpful to some people to know what's going to happen next.
Okay. Devin, can you take care of that? Okay. Anyone else? City attorney?
Nothing.
City administrator?
Nothing.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Good job.